There is a guy on Egghead Island. A guy who is going to change everything, or at the very least change some of the things. Because as this arc draws to a close, we have something of a special guest appearing. A guest with the power to topple an awakened cat, put the no in Borsellino, as well as having the notoriety to make the world government involuntarily soil the pants of gratuitous nobility. And Oda went to some pretty great lengths to hide the identity of the character in this chapter. However, those lengths, not great enough. In theory, all we have to work with is this image of a silhouetted snail. Very important that this gastropod is shrouded in narrative fog, because Denden Mushis have the tendency to nigh on perfectly replicate whoever is speaking through their snail telepathy. We have one hint, and that hint is the general furriness on the back of the snail, as well as potentially the head as well. But that hint is more than enough. And my first guess would be the very straightforward Jaguar D Sol, because he fulfills all of our key criteria, which, to be clear, is someone powerful enough to be useful with the whole escape business, also someone criminal enough that has to be hidden on what is quite possibly the most secure facility in the world. We need a sense of loyalty to Mr. Dr. Vegapunk. And finally, something to do with having furry crap on your back. What strikes me as immediately obvious is that a handful of pirate drawings ago, Shaka quite blatantly stated that Sol was in hiding. And he was very coy about the whole thing, electing not even to mention Sol by name. You know, it was the whole, I can't tell you any more about who this Jaguar D Sol may or may not be, or which Egghead Island he may or may not currently be in hiding on. Although the counterpoint to that is that Sol could also be on Elbaf, which is where we last physically saw him in Vegapunk's flashback. So for this idea to work, Sol would need a reason to actually leave Elbaf, which is tricky because that island is a bit of a stronghold. The world government have less influence on Elbaf than an anonymous Twitter user with an anime character PFP has on the real world. So Sol would be pretty safe here. But that all depends on his relationship with Elbaf, its culture, and its mysterious monarchy. Some of you are probably quite sick of me pointing this out. I am sick of me pointing this out, but there is always someone else who needs to hear it. Jaguar D Sol is not an Elbaf native. In fact, he comes from a completely separate tribe of giants who live in a location that I'm going to describe as somewhere. And the idea here would be that Sol's tribe may not exactly get along with the inhabitants of Elbaf. Quite specifically, the upper echelon of giants, including Prince Loki, who we still have yet to figure out whether he's an ally or an enemy. Sol did work with the new giant warrior pirates, but they are the next generation. They are the comparative youth of Elbaf, which I always find funny to say because Harudin is already in his early 80s. However, according to giant culture, that is practically a late teenager. But I don't think that Sol hiding on Elbaf is a given. There could be all sorts of cultural problems that make his existence there a little bit difficult. Meanwhile, another box he does tick is his loyalty to Vegapunk. And this is a big one, because while I do have alternative theories as to who the mystery ally is, I currently can't find anyone who satisfies that aspect better than Sol. This character, whichever Jaguar D Sol they may be, is willing to sacrifice their safety, their freedom, potentially even their life, so that Vegapunk can have all three of those things instead. And I could definitely see that coming from Sol, because Vegapunk is a good guy who wants to change the world for the better. He had links to Ohara with Clover and then Dragon with the Revolutionary Army. So look, if I was some sort of giant in hiding, then Vegapunk is a man that I would definitely sacrifice myself for. Although that is admittedly a rather tragic thought, the idea that Sol will emerge in front of Robin only to have Ohara play out all over again. That is definitely not something I would be looking forward to seeing. We will 100% be seeing Sol again though. And with everything we know about the mystery ally, he does seem like the obvious choice. But then again, Oda doesn't usually go for the most obvious straightforward answer. Which means it's probably Scooper Gaban, because the answer to every mysterious silhouette is always Scooper Gaban. And the fact that we as a fan base have never been right about this only proves that we are due to be right sooner or later. If I say that enough things are Scooper Gaban, then eventually it's going to be true. Now, to be completely honest with all of you, the thumbnail of this video is a meme. I don't actually believe that it's Scooper Gaban myself, but I'm always amused that he's one of the first names to come up in every single silhouette conversation. Now, with that said, Scooper does tick a lot of boxes. Someone in hiding? Yeah. He's also a notorious member of the Pirate King's crew, along with like 20 other lurking legends that we still have yet to meet. Where are all of you guys at, huh? I mean, when are we ever going to find out what became of the legendary Moon Isaac Jr., as well as the origin story of Moon Isaac Sr.? But back to Scooper Gaban, he fought against Whitebeard's crew, he went to Laugh Tale, and he engaged in communal bathing. All of the things that the world government stands against. In fact, even more so than Sol, Scooper Gaban evokes safety. Because if the third strongest member of the Pirate King's Vegapunk's crew told me that they are going to take care of business, then I would legitimately start to fear for the safety of the aforementioned business. There is a pretty big logical hurdle to overcome though, which is how you can connect in any way Scooper Gaban to Vegapunk. In fact, right now you can't really link Vegapunk to any of the Roger Pirates in general. Although one kind of cool thought is that right now Egghead Island is acting a bit as a Sabadi 2.0, or I guess Sabadi 3.0 because we've already had 2 Sabadi arcs. But the short burst nature of it, combined with the presence of your Kumas, your Kizarus, and your Sentoma Mamarus, as well as the need to escape swiftly like on the last 2 occasions, with all of that in mind, Scooper Gaban could definitely fit in with that formula, taking on the role of Silver's Rayleigh. I don't know though. I mean, if he was to show up and we didn't get to spend at least a chapter or 2 talking to him and about him and the things it is that he did like we did with Rayleigh, then that wouldn't be great. I think he's just too important of a figure to be used as a plot device like this. And also, not only does he have no established connection to Vegapunk, he also isn't thematically linked to Egghead Island in general. Like Saul, he has been thoroughly baked into the narrative pie of what this arc is trying to explore. But he's not the only one. And this next possibility is a bit of a big brain idea. But that possibility is Bartholomew Kuma himself, the man who is currently at the Red Line, but also on Egghead Island, both in the form of a delightsome cherub and a policeman. You know, one thing that really makes me sad is that this arc is ending so soon, and we didn't get to see any other crazy Kuma variants. I was hoping for at least a construction worker, a sailor, and a biker so that we could have a full complement of Kuma village people. But this idea borrows from what Vegapunk has already implemented, which is to split his own consciousness into 6 separate satellites. A process that has clearly been possible for quite some time, as Stussy was able to recognize Atlas from a visit to Egghead Island long ago, which could have been exactly what he did with Kuma over a long period of time. Separate his consciousness from the original body and just plonk it somewhere else, better nowhere. But thus giving the world government the illusion of Kuma's obedience as well as his not there-liness, but secretly keeping Kuma's consciousness somewhere else. Again, it ticks quite a few boxes. Kuma would be in hiding, he would also have a body powerful enough to allow everyone to escape, and the loyalty to Vegapunk would be unquestionable. But the one reason why I doubt this is because if he was there, then the Revolutionary Army would surely know. And maybe with said knowledge, they would not waste as much time trying to get back the original Kuma body, because they would know it is just a shell. But one of my favorite recent thoughts is that Vegapunk did split Kuma's consciousness, but on an even greater scale than just 6 satellite personas. Instead, there could be a little bit of Kuma within each and every pacifista, just lurking in the background and waiting for the day for Dragon to give the order to commence all of the revolutioning. That would be a pretty bold maneuver and quite the plan by Mr. Dragon. We're gonna build an army, and we're gonna make the world government pay for it. To catch up with current Kuma for a second though, he ran into a bit of a wall at that there Red Line, which a lot of people found unexpected because he was thought to be going straight to Egghead. It does still make logistical sense though, remembering that Momoira Island is in the first half of the Grand Line. So Kuma does need to cross the Red Line before getting into the New World. So traveling by super soft bouncy paws could be a 3-step process here. Step 1, you slam into the Red Line like so. Thwack. And then you say ow because that probably hurt. Step 2, you pop yourself on top of the Red Line. You then take a moment to appreciate the gorgeous view. My god, it's a beautiful world. And then step 3, you slam right into Egghead Island, preferably on a leopard of your choosing. Things could turn out to be quite different though, because there's an intriguing similarity with what's happening with Kuma right now versus what happened with the ancient robot. Both woke up and suddenly seemingly mindlessly gunned it straight for Marijois. So perhaps this is one of those classic One Piece moments where one robot has inherited the will of the other robot, and whatever the clunky ancient bucket was going to do will be fulfilled by Kuma. One thing that does make me quite sad is that this is very much looking like the final moments of Bartholomew Kuma. He just keeps acquiring more and more damage. So if he is going to Egghead, then by the time he arrives, his body will be melting away quicker than a nice 6-hour slow-cooked beef in my mouth, which is a bad metaphor because all it did was make me picture Kuma in my mouth. But it looks like this ending could be quite tragic for everyone involved, which would also be another Sabadi similarity actually. But I've also seen a whole ton of what I'm going to call obscure ideas as to who our mystery ally is. Some people have called out Smoker as the potential ally due to him being missing from platonic life partner Toshigi on the G14 base, and to that I say, nah. Because why would a Marine need to be in hiding? Why is Smoker loyal to Vegapunk? Most importantly, who honestly believes that Smoker would be in any way useful for dealing with Rob Lucci? I mean, Smoker is just like the Second World War all over again, because this is a bad idea idea on all fronts. Also floating around is the potential of Ochoku or Wangzi, depending on the translation. Pictured here is another random character from my image library because we have no images of Wangzi as of yet. However, what we do know is that he was recently defeated in fight battling by Blackbeard, and thus, according to the internet, would need somewhere to hide from the world government. Look, I will admit that I think this is a better choice than Smoker, but it's still just a little bit too out there. And Deadwood Weevil has also been suggested because the world government recently unfriended him as a warlord, and because his long, luscious hair does maybe kind of match the Denden Mushi silhouette. Here is the thing though. I think it's important to note that it's implied that this character has been in hiding for a very long time, which can't be the case for anyone that we've seen recently, like Smoker, Weevil, and what we've heard of Wangzi. So I don't think it's going to be someone who actively takes part in society. But at the same time, I also think it's going to be someone we know, because we are at a very late stage in One Piece where introducing a new god into the pantheon might be a bit sacrilegious when we have so many other gods still in desperate need of worship. But crazily enough, the question of this new ally isn't even the biggest mystery that this chapter confronts us with, because right now on Egghead Island, there is a traitor. Someone among us actively working against Vegapunk and the Straw Hats by dropping the defenses and allowing CP0 into the Labisphere. And we are going to uncover exactly who that traitor is in the next video.